Welcome to Swishy's podcast number 20, with Howard Price and Lily Kozlowska joining me, Bill Young. Swishy's podcasts are open to anyone who would like to join the panel. We're not celebrities or experts. Our aim is to get better at thinking and communicating on our feet, as it were. We hope you enjoy this one and thank you for indulging us. Welcome to the Swishy's podcast on critical thinking. We're delighted to have Lily Kozlowska and Howard Price with me, Bill Young, in the studio today. We're going to look at the components of critical thinking, and then we're going to look at some of the aspects of it that quite often get overlooked. Critical thinking is sometimes thought of as just criticism, but actually, when you look into it, it has a number of really important components. It comprises analytical thinking, looking at the motives that people have for things, conceptual thinking, information seeking, and organizational awareness. And you put all of those together and you come up with a critical thinking skill set, which is essential to anybody hoping to move through an organization to a leadership role. Let me throw it open. Lily, Howard, any thoughts about some of these components of critical thinking or its importance overall?
I have some thoughts because when we talk about critical thinking, oftentimes we confuse skepticism with cynicism, and that is a huge mistake because cynicism is when we have already decided that everyone is lying, so we stop listening. And skepticism is different. It's when you do listen, but when you do not switch your brain off. And right now, we live in the world where everyone is saying only right things. Companies talk about values, leaders talk about purposes. And the danger is not that we don't doubt these things. The danger is not that we doubt these things. The danger is that we don't. There is this idea of utility of the doubt, and I like it. I think that it shouldn't be perceived as something negative, rather something useful. Doubt is not a paralysis. It's the pause which keeps you from agreeing too quickly. Basically, when I'm deciding on something, I need to ask a few basic questions.
The doubt that makes you pause before agreeing to something.
Yes.
I like that.
Pause to think.
Yeah.
Just going back to your introduction about the components of critical thinking, you mentioned organisational awareness as if critical thinking is just something that needs to happen within business organisations. I think it's really helpful to remember where all this started, which is 2,500 years ago. Critical thinking isn't just a business tool. It goes right back to the foundations of humanity and culture. You know, the ancient Greeks, the dialectical approach, Plato and Aristotle, debating, challenging and refuting statements. In this historical background, critical thinking is something that people did together, rather than alone in their own heads. People got together and debated things, pulled them apart. So, I just wanted to try and put critical thinking within that historical perspective. Critical thinking was also related to moral philosophy, so it wasn't just a question of is this the right business process to follow, or do we understand the steps? It was asking, are we doing the morally correct thing? I'm just suggesting that this might still be important today. Also, if you look at other non-Western concepts, for instance, Buddhism, a lot of what that is about holding on to your beliefs very lightly, not clinging to what you think, always being open to the possibility that you could be wrong. That just doesn't seem very common today in Western thinking.
Yeah. You both actually, in your introductions, coincidentally ended up at sort of roughly the same point.
What I was trying to say that it shouldn't be perceived as something negative, because a lot of people are associating critical thinking with cynicism. It's simply when you need to decide on something, you need to ask some basic questions like, why are they saying this right now? What do they want me to believe or do? And what do they gain if I agree? This is not a cynicism, I think. It's simply attachment to the reality.
Lily mentioned about pausing. Bill, you pointed to it as well. Taking the pause to understand where you are. I think there's something about context, putting things into the right context. That's very important.
What about in modern companies? They're pretty autocratic. I mean, that is the nature of an organization. It has a chairperson or an MD, and it has layers of people telling people below them what to do. It's pretty autocratic. Where's the room for critical thinking and feedback and telling the emperor they've no clothes?
So this is a paradox to me, because when you talk to high-level people who are leading the teams, and when you look at job description requirements, everybody wants people with critical thinking. But in practice, it looks a bit different, because it seems that mostly they want the robots who are automatically making very fast decisions. And fast decision means without not only critical thinking, without thinking it at all. That's why I'm a bit puzzled here. It's very contradictory that on one hand, everybody wants to have people with critical thinking, but on the other hand, it seems that management is kind of scared of them.
Everybody wants critical thinking. That might be too generous to everybody. Or is it performative? Is it we want to be seen to ask for critical thinking? Howard, what do you think?
I think when the CEO says that he or she wants people who've got critical thinking skills, it's usually a bit of doublespeak. What they really want is people who can solve business problems by figuring out the solutions. They don't want the employees to apply that critical thinking to the CEO's own thinking. I think it's a double standard. It's like saying, be very critical about the business processes, fix all those problems, but don't come back to me as the CEO and tell me that I'm wrong.
If you go back to this speed thing, I mean, you do hear everything is about speed and fail fast cultures. When Lily talked about a pause, I guess we go back to Kahneman and thinking fast and thinking slow, which has been mentioned in another of our podcasts. Is thinking slow now no longer acceptable?
Just the short note that it depends on the tasks and targets, because a person cannot think slow for everything. There are just like more strategic tasks, for example, job related, and for them, critical thinking should be applied. But if it's like automatic, administrative, maybe it should be done fast.
We haven't talked about the impact of technology and AI, but I think when we ask the question, how does the emergence of AI and the influence of AI affect or change the need for critical thinking? Large language models are very, very poor at critical thinking. They tend to pick up a problem and just think in one single direction.
In my experience, they're quite good at finding alternatives, but only from some written text they've read somewhere. So they'll identify the context of what you're talking about, and they'll go and look it up, and they'll find a couple of things that you've said, and they'll add 3 or 4 more things to it that can expand it or change it. They're quite good at that. Now, it can look like critical thinking, but of course it's not, because they don't actually think.
This is a bit different thing Bill mentioned, and I explored this. It's like critical thinking has kind of a negative reputation because of cynicism associations, because people made doubt like the performance in some cases. It's like, when we roll our eyes, when we make these sarcastic jokes, when we say, yeah, sure, to look cynical. But the problem is that people who are behaving like this, just the performance, usually it's not followed by any action. And if it's about critical thinking, there should be an action. There should be incentives, consequences analyzed. So what Bill is mentioned, I think it's like performance when the person tries to show up as cynical.
Does that relate back to the AI? Is the AI doing that?
No, not AI, maybe people who are using this, but AI, in my opinion, is just a tool. I understand that now it's relatively new thing, and there is hype for AI, but it's just the tool. Like, for example, many years ago for Excel, this is the tool you are using for private and professional purposes to be more effective. But obviously, AI cannot do any strategic decisions, cannot do critical thinking for you. I think you can give it direction and some input. You can get some ideas out of that, which will help to make decisions. But the person who is using AI still should be the owner, the leader of this process.
I wanted to just try and bring these 2 points together. Bill, you were highlighting quite rightly that an AI model can suggest different ideas. It will come up with suggestions, but I don't think that's critical thinking, though. I think that's something else. I think that's more like brainstorming.
Yeah.
What you wouldn't find an AI model doing is saying, you know what, I think we've made some errors in the fundamental assumptions we made at the beginning of this discussion. Let's go back. Let's rethink what we're actually doing here. Once you've set off the AI train, the AI might find a different route, but it won't question why it was on the train in the first place.
What AI is doing, you are right. It simply agrees with everything, and unless you use special functionality, which is like better now, but still it tends to agree with everything you say.
What about the ability to sit back and look at where our own thinking comes from, how we arrived at it, and whether it's got a basis, in fact?
Yeah, I think it's not only about challenging people, it's challenging yourself, because it's quite easy and sounds very lazy when you decide relying on someone's persuasions. Because challenging yourself, thinking, analyzing, it takes time and energy. So it's about challenging yourself, and challenging yourself is development. So critical thinking, it kind of lives in very uncomfortable zone. It's about staying open, but not staying quiet, in the sense that you are questioning the things. And for this, you need to challenge yourself, because you need to think about the questions and go in deep with your doubts. Also, you need to have the energy to challenge the people, not only yourself.
I like staying open, but not staying quiet, because it
Yes.
implies that you are sharing ideas with people, and perhaps that you're inviting them to come back with their views and criticism.
Yes, but I still think that it starts with you going out of your comfort zone, stop being lazy, and start having these doubts, because it's too comfortable not having doubts, but then there is no development, right? It's not interesting to live like this.
How do you trust somebody to come back at you constructively? How do you set about identifying someone who's going to be a true mentor? Somebody who's going to help you challenge your basic thinking without destroying any good that's in it?
I think it depends on the values alignment with this person, and it's very individual. There is no like theoretical list you can follow. It's very individual. Then also based on the experience with this person, because you cannot trust the person from the first meeting, right? So I think two core pillars values alignment and experience.
When I reflect on my own experience with important decisions, who should I go to who can tell me what might have got wrong and help me think it through? It's a very small list. It's close friends and family mostly, and that's about it. I don't know whether that's normal though.
I quite like opening up to people and then judging their response and whether I think they've come up to scratch or not.
We don't know our blind spots, do we? We're not always aware of our own prejudices or mistakes. So we do need to call on other people to help us.
Yeah, one of the things that happens when you don't get critical thinking is echo chambers. You can get contradictory or conflicting echo chambers of them and us. We see this in politics today. There's a lot of them and us. And if you're in one of the camps, there's an increasing number of tenets that you have to hold that you're not really allowed to criticize. Is there something in critical thinking that would help people break out of these echo chambers or them and us mentalities that would help them to challenge some of the tenets that they hold and are almost not allowed not to hold?
Being open to analyzing the information of them because you need to have both sets of information to make decision. How can you take the side if you know only one side of the story? So I think first step is to have a whole piece of information, and then it's more difficult, stop being biased. But when some emotions are involved, it's more difficult. But at least the person needs to give it a chance, because you can't be against other group of people without checking their perspective at all. In my opinion, this is too narrow-minded.
Yes, you're being very logical, very sensible, but these echo chamber groups, these them and us societies, have an amazing ability to completely deny self-evident truths. And it almost becomes a badge of honor within those groups to deny things that are obviously true.
I've spent quite a lot of time in my life studying negotiation, and there's a lot of scientific proof that bringing a third party into the room during a difficult session as a mediator is hugely beneficial. In fact, even if the other person never says anything, somehow the people behave better. It's almost like their conscience is sitting in the room with them.
Yes, the idea of mediation is quite a powerful one. I think we're getting to the end. Thanks for some of those ideas, because I think it's brought out some angles and aspects of critical thinking that I wouldn't necessarily have thought of and would not have read in the textbooks. That's been jolly useful. So with that, thank you, Lily Kozlowska, Howard Price, and from the three of us, including me, Bill Young, thank you. That's the end of another Swiss Shoes podcast. Until the next one, goodbye.